Hello everybody, dear students and teachers of the Institute. I am Kurban Badruddinov Shadmanov, Doctor of Philosophical Sciences, Professor of the English Chair of this very institute. Today I'm about to present you one topic which is of great importance, and it is called Jadids in Turkestan. So, what are the problems to be discussed? Here I have the plan, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 points to be discussed dealing with this topic. First, the program goals and objectives of the Jadids of Turkestan, and the second, influence of the Jadid ideology on the socio-economical and cultural life of the Turkestan and Central Asian region. Then we are to discuss the architecture of this region and the governorship of the late 19th and the early beginning of the 20th century. And the last one will be dealt with Bukhara architecture of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, because it also deals with the very topic of Jadids. So, when we speak about the Jadid program and the goals and objectives of the Jadids, we are to remember one important point, and that is who was the leader of this movement and the organizer. And that person was Gasper Ali. Here is his portrait. In the Turkestan territory, the struggle for the national idea unfolded in the form of Enlightenment movement, and these were the Jadids. Of course, the word Jadid comes from the Arabic word, and it means new method in teaching. So what were the goals and objectives of the Jadids? They were four main. The main driving motive of the activity of Jadidism, and then difficult socio-economic situation of the population, then lagging behind in the development of the economy and culture, and the last point, a double oppression, which means officials of the Russian Empire and local rulers. So let's start with the first one, that is Jadid ideology. What does it mean? It means that initially it developed as a cultural and educational movement, and its main goal was enlightenment. First of all, is one of the ways to raise the cultural level of the people. And then enlightenment was the ideological trend of the 18th and the early beginning of the 19th centuries. So here in the picture you may see the main representatives of the Jadid movement in Turkestan and generally speaking in Central Asia. The common characteristic trait that united the Jadids was the open support and protection of the Enlightenment, freedom, and then improvement of ethics and morality, of course, and the struggle for the civilized forms of life, the desire to improve the life of the people of the region and the entire Central Asian region, which was called generally as the Turkestan region. Well, and now let's come to the educational activities. What do we mean? Many of the followers of the Jadids visited foreign countries and were able to compare the level of education, culture, and science. Their main dream was to spread the achievements of world civilization in the Turkestan territory in the field of education, science, and culture. And here I should add one thing, that one of the main Jadid ideologists and leaders was Abdurrauf Fitrat, who was born in Bukhara. He is native on Bukhara, and by the way, in the young Soviet Republic of the then time, Abdurrauf Fitrat was the first professor in Central Asia, who was professor of the Moscow Institute of Foreign Languages, and he was one of the most prominent, so to say, leaders of the movement. The next, about the Jadid Treaty. To promote their views and ideas, what did they do? They found the most effective way out: the creation of a national theater. The creation of a national theater was a new thing, because before the Jadid movement we had no theaters at all. That was the first and the main thing. And the second important thing was to create and to propagate the newspapers. Why it was so important? You see, all the ideas dealt with the Jadids and Jadidism should be spread over the vast territory of Central Asia, or Middle Asia as we say now, or Turkestan. Two ways were possible. The first, this is the mass media. Today we say mass media, there's a newspapers and magazines, popular like Tarjuman and the like, Oyna, and surely the theaters. And the creation of the National Theatre was started in 1911, 1913. Theatres have become powerful mass media for promoting the ideology of Jadidism. As I told above, the first and most popular play was written by the leader, one of the leaders of the movement, Mahmud Hoja Bihbudi. His play in Tajik or Farsi was called Padar Kush, Father Killer, convincingly revealed the negative impact of the desire for enrichment in one's own way, showed the destructive influence of an alien culture on the relationship between children and parents. Freedom, equality, and justice are the key motto of the Jadids. It was stated above. So, the Jadids formed a national idea that could open for the peoples of Central Asia an alternative way to create a new way of life, a new state with its own, let us say, social, political, and economical basis. They were the greatest successors of the age-old traditions of humanism. Starting from the 19th century, we know that at present in the East we have three stages of Renaissance. The first so-called Renaissance dated from 9th and 12th centuries, and the most prominent outstanding representatives were Abu Ali ibn Sina and Al-Farabi, as well as Khwarizmi. Then the second period of Renaissance, that is the period of 15th century. This is Amir Timur, Alisher Navayi, Mirza Ulugh Beg, Abdurrahman Jami, and the like. And the third one was proclaimed by our president, the esteemed President of the Republic, Shavkat Miramonovich Mirziyoyev, as the starting of the third Renaissance. We are just taking or putting the first fundamentals of this movement, of this era, let us say, and on this way of creating a new society, a new enlightenment, a new tolerance. We should remember the creations, works, and the talent of those who lived many centuries ago, starting from the 80s, from the 8th, 9th, and up to the 16th, 17th, and the 18th centuries. So this tradition was reflected in the Jadids program. First of all, everything should be reflected in program. So what was the program? It is boiled down to three main principles. First, the so-called Hurriyat, Musawat, and Adalat. All these are Uzbek and the origin are Arab words which meant freedom, equality, and justice. Prospects of the Jadids in Turkestan. The Jadids saw the Turkestan territory as a free and independent state in which private property, which is very important, is protected by the state and protected by law as well. They respect any religion because there were many types of religion, different as Judaism, as Muslim religion, as Catholicism, as Slavic religion. So provided freedom and rights to all residents of the country. They wanted the Turkestan territory to become an advanced state at the level of the highly developed states of Europe and Asia. And now a few words about Jadids newspapers. The Jadids directed their efforts to propagate their reformist ideas among the population. What did they do? Despite the most severe censorship, they began to publish their own newspapers and magazines. Newspapers were published in all large cities of Turkestan. They were Tarakki, that is progress, Shuhrat, Khurshid, sun, Sadai Turkestan, voice of Turkestan, Samarkand, Oyna, mirror, Turan, Bukhara Sharif, noble Bukhara, Sadai Farhana, voice of Fargana, and others. The first issue of the newspaper Tarakki also appeared during this very period. Here you may see the first number of the newspaper of Jadids, which was called Tarjuman. You see the graphic was Arabic, but it was written in Old Uzbek language. So everybody could understand the main essence of these, the ideas spoken here. Here you may see the process of printing Jadid books and newspapers. So let me to say a few words, let us to enumerate the prominent representatives of Jadids in Turkestan. First of all, they were Abdul Qadir Shukuri, Mahmud Hoja Budi, Abdullah Ablani, Munawar Qari, Abdurrahman Fitra, and the like. Just now, it's also a very old and interesting photo showing Jadid schools. You see that the Jadid schools, or they were called in Russian new method schooling, and it gave a great chance both for boys and girls. You see here, girls sitting here and boys. That was a progressive for its own time. Now it's a common and ordinary thing, but for the period of the beginning of the 20th century, the idea was very revolutionary. Thank you.